Listen carefully. There is a war, a silent war, a hidden war that most people never see but millions live every single day. It is not fought with guns or swords but with words, looks, silences, and decisions. And this war kills. Slowly, invisibly, painfully. This is not a myth, this is not an exaggeration, this is the reality of fatphobia, a deep, systemic, and deadly discrimination against people with bigger bodies. It hides in hospitals, it lingers in schools, it waits in workplaces, and it poisons social media feeds. And the scariest part? It is everywhere. Before we continue, let me tell you something important. The story you are about to hear, the shocking evidence, the heart-stopping examples, this is not fiction. This script is based on academic research and real studies from international journals, guides, and scientific reports. What you are about to discover is documented, investigated, proven. You may find it hard to believe, but that's because the truth is scarier than the lie we've been sold. Imagine a woman, her name was Ellen. For years, Ellen felt sick. She begged some doctors to help her, she cried for answers, but every time she went to the clinic, she heard the same words. Lose weight, come back when you're thinner. No scans, no tests, no real care. And then, the truth came too late. She had cancer. But it was discovered only when it was too advanced, when nothing could be done. Days later, she died. Not only because of the disease inside her body, but because of the disease inside the system. Medical fatphobia. Her story spread across the world, people gasped. How could some doctors ignore a patient's pain simply because of body size? But Ellen's tragedy is not unique. It is just one name in a list of thousands, maybe millions, silenced by the same prejudice. This is the hidden war. This is the horror. Let's slow down for a moment. What exactly is fatphobia? It is not just teasing or bullying. It is much bigger. Fatphobia is the fear, hatred, and discrimination against fat bodies. It is the belief that bigger people are lazy, weak, unhealthy, or even morally wrong just for existing. In medicine, in schools, in jobs, fatphobia operates like a poison. It denies respect, it denies care, it denies humanity, and it kills. Researchers describe fatphobia as a type of systemic discrimination, just like racism, sexism, or homophobia. It works at many levels. At the personal level, people face insults, jokes, stares. At the institutional level, workplaces don't hire, hospitals don't treat, gyms exclude. At the cultural level, movies and media make fat bodies into monsters, villains, or jokes. Even the words used to describe body size can be violent. Words like obese or morbid obesity carry heavy judgments. That's why activists and researchers now say, use the word fat as a neutral description. Fat is not an insult. Fat is just a body size, like tall or short. But society has turned this word into a curse, and that curse has consequences. Have you ever heard of BMI, the body mass index? Some doctors use it to label people, normal, overweight, obese, a simple number, dividing weight by height. But here's the dark truth, BMI was never designed to measure health. It was created centuries ago by a mathematician who studied the average man. And the average man meant white European men. Yes, you heard that right. A tool born from racism and exclusion is still being used today to define who is healthy and who is sick. BMI does not measure blood pressure, it does not measure cholesterol, it does not measure mental health, diet, lifestyle, or genetics. It only measures size. And yet millions of people are still judged by it as if it were the ultimate truth. It justifies ignoring real illnesses. It tells some doctors, if the patient is fat, the problem must be the fat. This leads to misdiagnoses, delayed treatments, and unnecessary deaths. The tool is broken, but the system keeps using it. Now let's go even deeper. Sociologists use a chilling phrase, symbolic violence. What does it mean? Symbolic violence is when society imposes hidden rules that make some people feel less valuable, less human, without using physical force. It's invisible harm. It's when fat people are constantly reminded that they don't belong, that their bodies are wrong. Think about it, a chair too small, a seatbelt that doesn't close, a hospital gown that doesn't fit. Some doctor who refuses to examine you because of size. Each of these moments whispers the same cruel message, you don't deserve to exist comfortably. This is violence. But because it is hidden behind normal rules, most people don't even see it, and that makes it more dangerous. Society loves to hide fatphobia behind one excuse, health. You're fat? We only care about your health. You need to lose weight, for your own good. It's not discrimination, it's medicine. But research reveals the truth. Weight discrimination harms health more than weight itself. Yes, you heard that right. Studies show that being discriminated against for your size increases stress, depression, and eating disorders. It pushes people away from exercise, from healthy food, from medical care. People avoid clinics because they fear humiliation. And this avoidance makes illnesses worse. So the so-called concern for health becomes a weapon. Instead of helping, it hurts. Instead of healing, it harms. The real sickness is not fat bodies, the real sickness is fatphobia. Now imagine entering a doctor's office. You are worried, you are in pain, you need answers. But some doctor doesn't look at your eyes, some doctor looks at your body, and some doctor decides before you even speak. The problem is your weight. This happens every day. Research proves that fat patients receive shorter consultations, ruder treatment, and less medical testing. Sometimes some doctors even refuse to touch or examine fat patients. 1 in 5 gynecologists admit they are reluctant to perform exams on fat women. This is not care, this is neglect. This is discrimination dressed as medicine. The result? Fat patients are told to lose weight instead of being treated. Their illnesses grow, their pain spreads, their lives are shortened, the clinic becomes a battlefield, and the patient is always the casualty. Do not think this is only happening in one country. Fatphobia is global. In Brazil, in Spain, in Canada, in the UK, in the US, everywhere. Studies with women in Brazil and Spain show the same pattern. Some doctors treat fat patients as if they lack control, intelligence, or even humanity. They are spoken to with disrespect. They are denied proper exams. They are blamed for everything, even when their illness has nothing to do with weight. And yet, when these women joined the Antifatphobia movement, something powerful happened. They found their voices. They resisted. They started to say, "This is not health, this is violence." Activism gave them strength. It gave them words to fight back. But still, the system continues, the discrimination grows, the danger remains. Let's not hide it. Fatphobia kills. It kills directly by denying medical care. It kills indirectly by causing stress, depression, and eating disorders. It kills silently by pushing people out of jobs, out of relationships, out of society. Research estimates that discrimination itself explains a large part of the link between higher body weight and worse health. In other words, it's not the body that destroys health, it's the way society treats the body. Think about that. The shame, the bullying, the denial of treatment, these are not just mean words, they are weapons, and those weapons take lives. One study gave this nightmare a name: interactional and relational disconnect. Fat women reported that when they spoke, some doctors did not hear. Their words vanished into thin air. No matter how carefully they described symptoms, the response was always the same: lose weight. This is not a conversation. This is erasure. This is the collapse of trust, the destruction of the doctor-patient relationship. And once trust is gone, what happens? Patients stop going, they avoid clinics, they hide their pain until it is too late. The disconnect kills. Some doctors often claim, "We only care about health. We must warn patients about the dangers of obesity." But what really happens behind this mask of health promotion? A literature review revealed the truth. Many medical guidelines about weight are not based on evidence. Instead, they repeat shallow, offensive phrases. "You are like this because you're fat. Get thinner and you'll be better. Lose weight, that's the only solution." No personalized plan, no real strategy, just prejudice packaged as advice. Patients leave appointments not motivated but humiliated. Instead of fighting illness, they fight shame. Instead of gaining health, they gain depression. What the system calls health promotion is in fact the reproduction of fatphobic speech, and this speech spreads like poison, damaging both body and mind. Public health campaigns often shout, "Obesity epidemic." These words sound scientific, but look closer. The phrase paints fatness as a contagious disease, like a virus spreading across the world. And once fatness is seen as a disease, fat people are seen as walking plagues. The posters and ads show only thin, smiling bodies as healthy. They show fat bodies as shadows, as dangers, as warnings. They do not teach real actions. They do not promote real care. They promote fear. And fear turns into hate. The war against obesity becomes a war against fat people. Sociologists explain stigma with chilling precision. Stigma is not random. It is a process with 4 phases. Labeling. Society marks fatness as different, abnormal. Stereotyping. Fat people are linked to laziness, ugliness, lack of control. Separation. The fat are placed apart, as if they do not belong. Status loss and discrimination. Fat people lose opportunities, rights, respect. And all of this unfolds within power. Stigma is not just an opinion, it is a weapon used by those with authority to keep others down, in, or away. This is what scholars call stigma power. It is the ability to define someone's worth without touching them, without hitting them, just by labeling them. It is invisible domination. And when fatphobia uses stigma power, it creates symbolic violence, harm so normalized that even the victims start to believe it is natural. Imagine hearing the same insult every day: lazy, ugly, sick, worthless. After years you start to believe it. This is internalized stigma. It is when the war moves inside the body. Fat people begin to police themselves, avoiding spaces, avoiding opportunities, avoiding life. Some stop going to gyms, fearing mockery. Others stop going to some doctors, fearing humiliation. Many withdraw from relationships, convinced they do not deserve love. The violence is no longer just outside, it has entered the mind, it is carried everywhere, and it corrodes slowly, invisibly. Fatphobia is not only about individual cruelty, it is also built into structures, into systems. Think of medical equipment. Many examination tables, blood pressure cuffs, or imaging machines are designed only for thin bodies. When fat patients cannot fit, they are blamed instead of the system. The message is clear. Your body is the problem, not our design. Think of workplaces. Research shows fat people are less likely to be hired or promoted. Not because of skills, but because of appearance. Think of laws. In almost every US state except Michigan, it is still legal to discriminate based on weight. Legal, open, normalized. This is not accident, this is systemic exclusion. But here is the twist. In Brazil and Spain, fat women began to rise. They formed Antifatphobia movements. They told their stories publicly. They built political discourses. They called fatphobia by its name, violence. Through activism, they found resistance. They learned to question biomedical authority, to challenge the idea that health means thinness. They turned shame into power, and their voices spread across Latin America and Europe. They showed that fat bodies are not medical failures but social targets. They revealed that fat activism can change how people see themselves and how societies must change. But the struggle is not easy. Every step forward meets resistance. Every demand for dignity is answered with stereotypes, yet the movement grows. Let's pause and ask, what happens to health when society discriminates against fat people? The evidence is chilling. Stress skyrockets under constant stigma, raising blood pressure and harming the heart. Depression deepens, as shame corrodes self-worth. Eating disorders rise with cycles of restriction, binging, and guilt triggered by stigma. Healthcare avoidance grows, leading to late diagnoses and untreated conditions. And here is the shocking twist. When researchers examined the link between higher body weight and worse health, they found that a quarter of this link is caused not by the weight itself, but by discrimination. Yes, discrimination itself makes people sick. One of the deadliest lies is that weight is simply a matter of personal willpower. Eat less, move more, and everything will be fixed. But science says otherwise. Weight is influenced by genetics, hormones, environment, medications, mental health, socioeconomic status, and much more. Many of these factors are beyond individual control, yet the myth of control persists. And this myth fuels blame. Some doctors tell patients, it's your fault, you chose this. This is not science, this is ideology. An ideology that punishes bodies for existing outside a narrow definition of normal. Picture a child. At school, classmates laugh, fatty, whale, blob. On TV, every hero is thin, every villain or clown is fat. At home, even parents say, don't eat too much, you don't want to get fat. The child grows, the insults repeat, the shame grows inside like a parasite. Now picture that child as an adult walking into a doctor's office, already carrying years of wounds, already expecting judgment. And then some doctor confirms the fear, your body is the problem. This is not just one insult, this is a lifetime of reinforcement, a lifetime of emotional violence. And the body remembers, the mind remembers, health suffers. Around the world, the consequences pile up. In Brazil, 96 million people are classified as overweight. In Canada, in the US, in Europe, similar numbers rise. Public health campaigns declare an epidemic. But what if the real epidemic is not obesity, but discrimination? Every insult, every misdiagnosis, every law that allows weight discrimination. Together they form a global crisis, a deadly one. Perhaps the cruelest twist of all is how fatphobia disguises itself as care. Some doctor says, I'm just telling you this for your health. A family member says, I just want you to live longer. A politician says, we need to fight obesity for the nation's health. But behind these words often lies disgust, control, and exclusion. Because true care does not shame. True health promotion does not destroy mental health. True medicine does not ignore symptoms until it is too late. When care becomes cruelty, when health becomes humiliation, it is no longer medicine. It is violence. Look at movies, television, and advertising. What do you see? The thin hero, the thin heroine, and the fat body? Always the villain, the clown, the joke. This endless pattern is not accidental. It is cultural conditioning. It teaches children from their earliest days that thin means good, fat means bad. The media bias has worsened over time. Instead of challenging stereotypes, many shows amplify them. Fat characters are rarely shown as complex human beings. They are turned into symbols of laziness, greed, or comedy. And when society laughs at these symbols, it is not harmless fun. It is reinforcement. It is training. It prepares the ground for bullying, discrimination, and exclusion. Now look at the law. Did you know that in almost every US state it is legal to discriminate based on weight? Legal. That means a company can refuse to hire you. A landlord can deny you housing. A teacher can fail to protect you, all because of your size. Only one state, Michigan, outlaws weight discrimination. One state. The rest of the country leaves millions vulnerable. This absence of legal protection sends a message louder than words. You are not worthy of justice. And so, fatphobia is not only a cultural habit, it is institutionalized injustice. Discrimination is not only deadly, it is expensive. Studies show fat people are less likely to be hired, more likely to earn less, and often face blocked career paths. This economic exclusion deepens poverty, and poverty in turn worsens health outcomes. It becomes a vicious cycle. Stigma leads to poverty, poverty leads to worse health leads to more stigma. The system feeds itself, trapping people inside. The psychological consequences are enormous. Living under constant judgment is like carrying a heavy invisible weight. Anxiety grows when every public space feels unsafe. Shame builds when mirrors reflect not a body, but society's insults. Isolation spreads when people withdraw to avoid cruelty, and behind closed doors, many battle eating disorders. Discrimination increases the risk of binge eating, restrictive dieting, and cycles of guilt and punishment. The mind becomes a battlefield, and society provides the weapons. Fatphobia is not confined to one culture. Studies in Brazil and Spain prove that biomedical institutions in both countries reproduce the same fatphobic discourses. Some doctors pathologize fatness, treating it as disease first, person second. Patients are spoken to with moral judgment as if lacking reason or self-control, yet the anti-fatphobia movement is global too. In Latin America, activists challenge Eurocentric medical norms. In Europe, fat activists push back against inherited stereotypes. This inverted flow shows how resistance travels, from the global south to the global north, shaping new genealogies of struggle. The message is clear. Fatphobia is global, but so is resistance. Sociologist Shim introduced a powerful idea: cultural health capital. It means the social skills, knowledge, and behaviors that make patients more successful in healthcare encounters. Things like speaking in medical terms, showing discipline, projecting future-oriented responsibility. But here is the dark twist. Fat patients are assumed to lack this capital. Some doctors see them as irresponsible, non-compliant, unworthy of time. They assume fatness equals low cultural health capital. And once that assumption is made, the entire interaction is poisoned. Some doctors stop listening. Patients stop trying. The disconnect grows. This framework explains why even educated, articulate, proactive fat patients still face dismissal. The prejudice is not about reality, it is about perception, and perception kills. Let's trace the deadly spiral of fatphobia step by step. A fat patient enters a clinic with real symptoms. Some doctor dismisses the concern, blaming weight. The illness worsens due to neglect. The patient avoids returning, fearing humiliation. Stress, depression, and internalized shame grow. Physical health declines further. Society blames the patient again. You should have tried harder. This is not random misfortune. This is a pattern of systemic violence, and in too many cases it ends in early death. Ellen's story was only one, but there are countless others. Women who delayed cancer screenings because some doctors mocked their size. Men who avoided hospitals until heart disease advanced beyond repair. Mothers who faced ridicule in prenatal care. Children who were bullied into eating disorders. Every story different. But every story shares the same root: fatphobia. And yet these stories are rarely told. Why? Because society has been trained to see them as the patient's fault. The system erases its own violence. For decades, public discourse has shouted about an obesity epidemic. But think carefully about those words, epidemic. The word is used for contagious diseases like plague, influenza, or COVID-19. By calling fatness an epidemic, society transforms people into threats. Neighbors, friends, family members, children, all recast as carriers of danger. This language is not neutral. It is fear-mongering, it dehumanizes bodies, it justifies discrimination. The epidemic narrative does not solve health issues, it creates a new epidemic, the epidemic of fatphobia. Society teaches that fat bodies are not just unhealthy, they are morally wrong. This is why so many fat people are treated as if their very existence is a crime. In public transport, strangers stare. In restaurants, servers judge orders. In gyms, instructors shame. In hospitals, some doctors dismiss. The body itself becomes a battlefield, and every space becomes hostile territory. If this war continues, what future awaits? More deaths like Ellen's, more children internalizing shame, more patients avoiding hospitals, more laws that fail to protect, more campaigns that glorify thinness and demonize fatness. The cycle will deepen, and society will keep pretending it is about health, while health collapses under the weight of discrimination. But there is another possibility. Activism has shown it, research has proven it. If society begins to dismantle fatphobia, the benefits ripple outward. Respectful healthcare improves early detection of diseases, inclusive laws protect jobs and housing, positive media representation challenges stereotypes, and most importantly, fat people live, not as shadows, not as warnings, not as scapegoats, but as full human beings. This is not utopia, this is achievable, but only if we recognize the truth. The real enemy is not the fat body, the real enemy is fatphobia. So remember this, fatphobia is systemic, fatphobia is deadly. Fatphobia hides behind the mask of health but spreads sickness. Fatphobia pretends to care but denies care. Fatphobia kills, and it kills with silence, with stereotypes, with neglect. But knowledge breaks silence. Activism breaks shame. Recognition breaks violence. The war is real, but it does not have to continue.